I wanted to start off here today real quick. This channel I have been watching since before I even did my first video. Smart girl, knows her stuff, incredibly talented. Hasn't always agreed with me on some things, but I think recently, maybe perhaps, she's starting to see some things that might put us closer to having the same attitude toward the administrator. Oh, I'm sorry, the administrator. She does some really great work, and I haven't gone to her Patreon and signed up yet, but listening to her speak on YouTube, I think I'm actually going to do this. She's actually been diagnosed with Kienbach, which is an incredibly painful disease. It has to do with the bone in the wrist not getting enough blood, and it makes you basically unable to use that hand. And honestly, she doesn't read from a script. She's not into conspiracy theories at all. She deals with fact. And with this issue, with the omnibus, honestly, this girl was on the Trump train big time. She wasn't initially. And then she got on the Trump train, and that's where her and I kind of parted ways so many months ago. I've never actually spoken with her head-to-head. Somebody came to one of my videos once and was alleging that he was speaking on her behalf, wanting to do a debate. I couldn't confirm that, so I didn't even respond to it. But, you know, it had to do with the Electoral College. I'm not going to rehash all that. But even with her disagreement with me, still absolutely well-spoken, intelligent girl. If you have the ability to support someone, support her. Going through and what she's going through, she is one of the voices that really needs to stay out there. And if it's just a matter of a buck or two, you know, in numbers, it could really make a difference for her. So she hasn't asked me to do this. She's probably cringing listening to me do it right now. But, you know, honesty is what it is. Now, speaking of this omnibus, it got me thinking about this whole gun control issue and how there are already laws that take guns away from people. Now, this Gun Control Act here, back in 1968, or the Gun Control Act of 1968, I should say, has a very interesting history, and I just wanted to read this to you right now so you can kind of maybe understand where they're going. Passage of the Gun Control Act was initially prompted by the assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy in 1963. The president was shot and killed with a rifle purchased by mail order from an ad in NRA magazine, American Rifleman. Congressional hearings followed, and a ban on mail-order gun sales was discussed, but no law was passed until 1968, almost 50 years ago exactly. At the hearings, NRA Executive Vice President Franklin North supported a ban on mail-order sales, stating, "We do not think that any sane American who calls himself an American can object to placing into this bill the instrument which killed the President of the United States." So this was 68. And that's obviously right under the heading of Rahm Emanuel's "Don't Let a Good Crisis Go to Waste." Now, they had some precursors here that talked to the regulate the interstate shipment of firearms. Then, of course, to put the icing on the cake, the death of Martin Luther King Jr. also in April of 1968, and U.S. Senator Robert F. Kennedy in June of 1968, along with fears of armed uprisings in black cities, renewed efforts to pass the bill. On June 11, 1968, tie vote in the House committee halted the bill's passage. On reconsideration 9 days later, the bill was passed by the committee. Anyway, the Gun Control Act was signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson October 22, 1968, banning mail-order sales of rifles and shotguns and prohibiting most felon drug users and people found mentally incompetent from buying guns. Wait, so there's already a law? Huh, that's interesting. Prohibited persons. Now, I'm not going to read this entire diatribe to you of all of the people that they have said now can lose their Second Amendment rights: fugitive from justice, controlled substance, adjudicated as mental defective, illegal, discharged dishonorably, anyone who is renounced citizenship. Anyway, even people here with, you know, court orders, stalking orders, or whatever. So this is already out there. It has been out there since 68. And they've actually, when the thing happened with Reagan, they added the Brady Bill to it, the Brady Handgun Violence, the NICS, and the most recent thing, this Fix NICS thing, is now what they're doing. But the idea here was that they didn't let a good crisis go to waste. Now, the whole thing with Kennedy, that this guy from Book Repository, oh no, that was Whitman. Anyway, the guy that shot Kennedy was a long way away using a very, very old weapon and got headshots on a moving target. Now, I know he learned to shoot in the Marines, but it would have been incredible. I mean, absolute incredible feat of marksmanship to do what he did. And everybody, I'm not going to get into the who killed Kennedy thing. Point being that this stuff has been going on for a long time. This whole let's get rid of guns thing. But the problem with this is if you do the thought experiment on this, it actually would behoove the pro-gun people to let them repeal the Second Amendment. And I know that sounds crazy, but let me explain this. Okay, you got to walk through this with me. We have already established that the U.S. government has the ability, with this law, to pass laws that say this person can, this person can't, this person makes ABC choice, and even though they could, now they can't. Or we believe this person is not fit, so they can't. So we've already established the government can do this. See, when I didn't agree with Obama on much, but he did say this comment about the Bill of Rights being this list of negative liberties, a list of things the government can't do to you. But, you know, and then he went off on some irrelevant tangent about how there should be some list of things that the government is supposed to do for you. The point is that it deals specifically with the federal government and what they can't do. Now, every business out there, private property, can put giant signs up saying no guns allowed inside. They're not violating your Second Amendment. Why? The Second Amendment doesn't apply to private businesses. It only applies to what the federal government can or can't do. It only applies to what the federal government can or can't do. If they wanted to go the insurance angle, they could say, okay, you know what? If you're going to allow firearms in your establishment, then we're going to quadruple or quintuple your rates, your liability insurance rates. And then, of course, same thing with the schools. I had talked about this before. They could get rid of it that way. One angle that I don't think anybody has thought about is, and I guess the best term you could use for it would be what they call gun shaming. Now everybody's talking about fat shaming and all this kind of stuff, but think about this for a minute. What if they made a requirement? It's like, okay, you want to carry a gun? Not a problem. Absolutely fine. But if you're going to carry a gun in public, what you have to do is you have to wear this big red vest that says, I have a gun, and then a giant, list of the type of gun and how many rounds of ammunition you have. And on that giant vest is going to be a giant QR code that anyone can go up and scan, and they can then see all of the pertinent information that you've supplied to local authorities that give you the ability to carry that weapon. That any random person can do this. Now, I know that's silly, the idea of that, but there's no constitutional prohibition for that. So, if you take the idea of having a gun or not having a gun away from the argument of whether it's the federal government that can or can't do it or not, then it throws it down to local authorities and what they say and what they can or can't do. And local authorities are much more subject to the will of the voter than presidents are. We only elect a president every 8 years. As we've clearly seen, they can say one thing during the election, and then as soon as they get elected, they can do completely the opposite. Whereas local authorities, they have to live in the neighborhoods. That if they screw over their neighbors, they're going to be walking around, and believe me, they'll be labeled. And if Donald Trump had to go walk around every day in Texas or in any of these places where he's betrayed all of these people, Yeah, I'm sure he would probably make his decisions differently, but he's insulated in nice liberal Washington. And he's insulated in Mar-a-Lago. So what I'm getting at here is that even if the Second Amendment were repealed tomorrow, are all the guns going to magically just disappear from the face of the earth? No. Will it automatically ban guns? No. Guns will still be out there. Will local authorities be able to pass laws saying this person can or that person can't? Well, they already have that when the amendment is in place. So here's the point of what I'm trying to get to. You get rid of the Second Amendment. Okay, it's not, and like you've said, it's not going to stop some crazy kid from getting a gun and going and starting to gun down a mall or school or whatever. And when that happens, after you've let them get rid of the Second Amendment, then you'll be able to say, aha, see? What did we tell you? You passed all of your laws, you repealed the Second Amendment, you did all this stuff, and crazy people still shot other people. And it will make them look like the idiots they are. It would be ideal. It would absolutely be ideal to let them do, and then the government wouldn't have the argument. They wouldn't have this idea where they could run this out every time and broad brush a bunch of people. They like to call NRA people crazies, because there wouldn't be a Second Amendment to do that with. You wouldn't need the NRA. They wouldn't have to sit there and say, oh, we're fighting for your Second Amendment rights, blah, blah, blah. Because there wouldn't be a right. And we've already established they can pass the laws to restrict people. And even people from the NRA have said, okay, yeah, for sure, work for laws that take guns out of the hands of the mentally ill. It would completely disarm them. Pardon the pun. They would then have to deal with the real problem. Because they wouldn't have the Second Amendment to just throw out there as a straw man every single time and use that to create more and worse and less well thought out laws. That nobody is absolutely losing their mind over this thing about everybody who's 18, 19, and 20 in the state of Florida no longer has constitutional protections vis-a-vis the Second Amendment, I think is real telling. If this had happened under Obama, or if Hillary had won and this had happened, there would have been anarchy. If every 18, 19, and 20-year-old had lost their Second Amendment rights in the state of Florida. And forget the equal protection under the law, the violation of the Second Amendment, violation of the 10th Amendment. Think about this. If you're going to make the argument that 18, 19, and 20 is not an adult, not adult enough to purchase a weapon or to enjoy constitutional protections, then there's a whole lot of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that are in jail right now that are going to have one hell of a court case to say, hey, excuse me, since I'm technically not an adult, I'm not responsible for my actions, therefore trying me in an adult court was inappropriate. I would like my conviction thrown out. Especially the pedophiles. So, there's that. So, I just wanted this video to be about a thought exercise. Not saying that people having guns is a bad idea. What I'm saying is that this idea that somehow the Second Amendment is guaranteeing your ability to have that weapon is silly, because we've established that they can pass laws that can pretty much disarm anybody they want to. Laws that have been around since '68. Yet people are still getting guns, and people are still going into schools and shooting it up. And you could get rid of the Second Amendment tomorrow. Wouldn't change that. Case in point, look at all of Mexico, Central, and South America. No such thing, Second Amendment rights down there at all, and there is gunplay every single day. So, anyway, I will leave it there. Once again, are you ready for it? Absolutely. If you go to this channel, you'll see what I mean. Absolutely. Smart girl. Incredibly talented. I watched one of her videos. She does this thing where she does these, I know it sounds crazy, but artificial flowers. but she does an amazing job. Absolutely incredible, amazing job. And this hand disease that she has is going to be a problem for her to continue to do this. So her real talent in my mind, though, is the analysis of this gun debate. Very, very smart girl. So I'm going to probably be, as soon as I'm done here, unlocking these videos and becoming a patron, and it'll probably make her lose her mind. But regardless, that was water under the bridge from a long time ago. So like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.